Well, joining us today is Michael Lopez-Alegria,
I
a veteran
feel
astronaut whose
truly
extraordinary career
blessed and
spans more than
lucky
4 decades
to have
of
had this
aviation
career
and
path.
spaceflight. He is now
This
the
is a
chief
dream.
astronaut at
It's a
Axiom
huge
Space,
dream.
and he's
It has
helping
been
chart the future of commercial exploration in space. Michael, I'm so honored to speak to you today.
good to be with you as well.
Oh, we've been watching this amazing X4, and it seems like such a success. You've seen spaceflight evolve from the Cold War era partnerships to commercial missions like this that enabled astronauts from, well, India, Poland, and Hungary to participate. So, from your vantage point, does this feel like a shift in how space is opening up globally?
I wouldn't really call it a shift. It's more of a continuation of that shift. It started back in AX2 when we flew the first Saudi government astronauts to the ISS. And of course, it continued on AX3 where we had the first ESA fly on a commercial mission, the first Italian non-ESA to fly to the ISS, and then of course the first Turk to fly in space at all. And now, of course, with AX4 and Indian, Hungary, and Poland, we have even more people visiting the ISS than never have before.
And you've commanded X1, helped shape missions. So, are there any lessons from X4 that will influence future private space flights?
Certainly, there will be lessons. Again, it's a little bit of a continuation. We have been working with our partners, NASA and SpaceX, since AX1. We've learned an awful lot each time. We learn something more. It's a little bit like dating in a way. We're going to get to know each other. I think with NASA in particular, we are becoming better and better acquainted with the way they do things and they with the way we do them. I think different from dating at the end of all this, even though we're going to break up because the ISS is going to go away, we will remain very, very good friends because we want the ISS partners to be our customers among other countries as we've been discussing. So I think certainly we'll learn more and have learned more on AX4, but it's getting incrementally smaller with each mission. And that's the goal, right? To someday get to the point where we have it nailed flat.
Well, you've described ISS as a rare zone of US Russia cooperation, a diplomatic achievement as much as a scientific one. So, with the station now nearing its final chapter, do you see a framework emerging for international collaboration in orbit? So, what kind of alliances do you expect to come from this?
Well, I certainly see some of the ISS partners that we've been working with, notably Europe, Canada, and Japan, absolutely being partners with us on the Axiom station. We'll see if Russia becomes part of that consortium, but we would really like to expand it beyond the ISS partnership. So the countries that we've been discussing already, we expect them to return to the Axiom station as well as ones that have yet to fly with us. Our goal really is to make this International Space Station Part 2 be truly global. So not just the 15 countries that are members of the partnership today, but the entire world at some point.
So, when you look at private astronauts, your sense of what makes somebody ready to fly, how has that changed since you joined NASA?
Honestly, it's quite similar. I mean, we've certainly liked people that have a bit of a technical background because a lot of the work we do is following procedures that are sometimes a little arcane. But really, the thing that's most important for astronauts, whether they're government or private, is the ability to work well as a team member. So when we have our selection processes that we go through with these various countries, that is the thing either we do ourselves or we ask the partner countries to do for us during the selection. And so far, I'd have to say it's been we're batting 1,000.
And I saw the astronauts returning. They was also excited about it, and it seems that there's this fantastic camaraderie. How do you encourage that sort of collegial, well, how they relate to each other?
Look, when you fly with somebody in space, they become part of your family, and I've flown with a lot of them, and they're all my brothers and sisters. It's a wonderful fraternity, sorority, you name it. We also do some, I would say, more deliberate attempts to make that happen. For example, part of our training is to do a field expedition into a tough environment. And we like to call it bonding through suffering because actually, the more that you sort of put up with together, the closer the cohesion with the team. And we've done that on all of our flights so far, and we'll continue to do so in the future. It's a page that we've taken out of NASA's playbook, and we think it's very successful. But by and large, it's just really going through not only that experience, but all of the training. And of course, the flight is what really pulls you together as a family.
So give us an example of what you do.
You mean what we do on the space station?
No, no, what do you do to prepare for that team spirit?
Oh, I see. So usually they put you in a situation that's physiologically uncomfortable. So you're hot or you're cold or you're thirsty or you're wet or some combination of all of those things. And really, you sort of learn to understand each other's strengths and weaknesses. And again, I think just a mere going through an experience together like that is something that brings you together. You really get to know each other well. You're sleeping in two-person tents, out in these conditions, which can be harsh sometimes. So it's really an experience that almost in and of itself makes you closer to the other people on your crew.
Well, from a crew perspective, you got the fantastic spacesuits that are so different and so much lighter. So, how will living and working aboard the Axiom Space Station differ from the ISS?
It'll be similar in a lot of ways. I expect the mission profiles, if you will, to look the same. We'll do a lot of scientific experimentation. We'll do some technology demonstrations and development. We'll do a lot of outreach. So those things will be the same. I think one thing that will be different is the Axiom Station will be a lot more modern than the ISS. So therefore, a lot more, let's say, sustaining, self-managing. Today, I would say the astronauts spend maybe a third of their time doing what I would call routine operations and maintenance. We hope to whittle that down to a much smaller number so we can devote more of our time to the important research and outreach activities.
Can we talk about if you, as an astronaut, and looking back on missions, did you ever think, why am I doing this? Or did you always know this is the future that I was hoping for?
It's an interesting question. When I grew up, I wanted to be an astronaut as a child. I listened to actually the landing on the moon in 1969, but then, my attention drifted to other things. But it's one of those things that, however I got here or however I fell into it, I think it's rare that somebody feels as strongly as I do about this is what I was made for. I don't know if I'm any good at it, but I certainly enjoy it. So I've never had that question about what am I doing here? It's always like, what's next? I can't wait to see it.
Well, other astronauts I've spoken to, including Sean Proctor and former NASA Administrator Charlie Bolden, described how seeing Earth from space just changes their perspective and how they see the vulnerability of our planet. And did you have a similar experience?
I think every astronaut who has seen the Earth from that vantage point has that experience. It's commonly called the overview effect, and it really is a change in perspective from that perspective. So you've probably heard the cliches before, but you don't see the lines between the countries. You don't see war. You don't see famine. You don't see illness. You just see a very fragile place where you kind of feel like we ought to be able to learn to get along together a little bit better than we are because this beautiful blue planet is so different from the rest of everything else you see in space that it gives you a sense of wanting to protect it. You have a connection with both the planet and the people on it.
So we've been watching these astronauts come back. What is next for Axiom?
So, as you probably know, we are about to receive our first module from the manufacturer that's building the shell sometimes in the coming months. We'll have that here in Houston. We'll begin to integrate the avionics, the other systems that will go into it, and plan to have it ready for launch sometime in 2027. We're also separately and completely independently working on spacesuits for NASA's Artemis program, which will put the first people back on the moon in over 50 years. And also, that same suit, almost identically, will be used to replace today's NASA's extravehicular mobility unit or spacesuit that they use on the ISS for zero-G spacewalks. So all of those things are continuing apace, and we are hopeful that we will be winning a competition with some other companies to fly yet another private astronaut mission in the near future. So as you can see, we have our hands pretty full. Never a day goes by with it being dull, I can assure you.
Can I just comment? This is now sort of right at the end that are all astronauts as calm as you? Because they all seem so calm and they all seem so measured. Do you ever fly off the handle or do you tell a joke?
If I did, I wouldn't tell you.
That's almost like a James Bond answer.
I'll take that.
It's just one other question. So when you look at the astronauts going up, do you sort of feel I want to do that as well again?
Of course. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think I know very many astronauts who say, look, you know what, that was fun, but I really don't want to do it again. It's really, it's a little bit addicting. It's an incredibly rich and unique experience. So I would venture to say that most astronauts would say absolutely in the affirmative answer your question about whether they like to go back, me included. Let me just say that I think this is a very exciting time in the world of commercial human spaceflight. As we've discussed, we've sort of passed this inflection point where it's gone from being all government to a mix of government and commercial. We want those governments to be participatory in our commercial endeavors in the future as tenants of our commercial space station. But this is really a change in the way things have been done in space over the last, say, 60 years. And I think the future is extraordinarily bright. You should stay tuned and strap in.
Absolutely. And we're going to watch every single step of what you're doing. Michael, thank you so much for speaking to us.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.